Hey, what's up guys, it's Dark Arm Duelist, and today doing a Spriggans deck profile. So I'm really excited to do something for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful XZ based deck that I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification bar notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Spriggans Rocky. This card is definitely a 3-of in the build, and is an awesome card to be able to play in the deck, because if this card is normal or special summon, you can target a Great Sandseed Gold Golconda or a Spriggans monster in the grave, and add it back to your hand, which is a really cool ability to get the exact card that you need out of the graveyard. And all of your Spriggans machine monsters actually share a common effect, that if this card's in the hand, field, or graveyard, you can actually target a Spriggans XZ monster you control and attach this card to that monster as a material, which is a pretty cool effect. We then play 2 copies of Spriggans Brothers. This card is really good as a 2-of in the build, because if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target a Spriggans monster in the graveyard and special summon it in defense position, which is a great ability just to bring back one of your monsters to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Branga. Branga is definitely a 1-of in the build, but you only need a single copy of this card. It has the ability you can banish this card and a Spriggans monster with a different name from your grave to add a Spriggans card from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Pador. Pador is a good 1-of in the build, but you only need a single copy of this card, just like your copy of Branga. This card has the ability to tribute this card and then target a Spriggans monster in your grave and special summon it back to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Spriggans Captain Sargus. Captain Sargus is an amazing 1-of in the build and just helps out a lot overall in the deck. Sharing the ability of this card's in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can actually target a Spriggans XZ monster you control and attach this card from the field, or attach this card to that monster as a material. And it also has the ability during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can detach a material from an XZ monster that you control and then target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. And also a Spriggans XZ monster that has this card as a material gains the effect that it gains 500 attack points, which is a pretty cool effect. We then play 3 copies of Spriggans Kit. Spriggans Kit is an amazing 3-of in the build because this card helps out so much in the deck, especially when you combine it with your copy of Branded and High Spirits. This card has the ability, if this card is if this card is in your hand and you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material on the field or in the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can add to your hand 1 branded spell or trap card that's banished or in your deck or graveyard, and then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, literally searching out your copy of Branded and High Spirits, which is the only target we actually play in the deck to be able to search off your copy of Kit. But Kit's really good in the deck as a 3-of because it helps you get to your copy of Branded and High Spirits, so you can send your copy of Sprint from the extra deck to the graveyard, which is just really helpful. We then play a single copy of Therion King Regulus. Therion King Regulus is just an amazing walking negate in the deck, and it's a really awesome card to be able to summon out to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag is amazing to help us summon out our copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus, because this card is searchable off your copy of Banshee, and then this card can actually search out your copy of Corridor from your deck to your hand, and then you can use summon out your copy of Corridor using its ability, and then tribute it to summon out your copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is so cool to be able to do in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a definite 3-of in the build to basically just stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then also play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really good at stopping your opponent's monster effects so that you can go in for your plays on the follow-up. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a 1-of in the deck to basically just stop your opponent's hand traps while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play a single copy of Branded and High Spirits. Brandon at High Spirits is really good as a 1-of in the build because it lets you reveal a monster in your hand and send a level 8 fusion monster from your X deck to the graveyard with the same type that has 2,500 attack or defense points, then apply this effect to discard the revealed monster, and if you do, add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand. Also, during the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand, which is such a cool ability to be able to use this card. But this card is really helpful in the deck and why we actually play Sprint in the X deck so we can use this card. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good in the build as a 1-of to be able to use your copy of Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda. Speaking of Gold Golgonda, we're also playing 3 copies of Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda. This card is an amazing 3-of in the build with a really cool ability that all Spriggan's XZ monsters on the field gain 1,000 attack points. And you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn. And if you control no Spriggan's XZ monsters, you can discard a Spriggan's card to be able to special summon a Spriggan's XZ monster from your X deck to your side of the field, which is such a cool ability. And if a face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can actually target a monster your opponent controls and it can attack for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, which is a great ability. We then play 3 copies of Spriggan's Watch. Spriggan's Watch is really good as a 3-of in the build because this card lets you add a Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda from your deck to your hand, and if you already have a Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda in your field spell zone, you can add a Spriggan's monster from your deck to your hand instead, and if you do, send a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard, just getting you completely set up, and it's a really cool card as a 3-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Tally-Ho Spriggans. Tally-Ho is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is basically like Soul Charge for the deck, with the ability that when you activate this card, you can also detach up to 3 materials from monsters that you control, which you're always going to want to detach 3 materials to activate this card. To add a Spriggan's monster from your deck to your hand, then, if you detached any materials to activate this card, you can actually special summon that many Spriggan's monsters from your hand or graveyard, just swarming the board with your Spriggan's monsters so you can go in for game. This card also has the ability during your main phase, if this card's in your graveyard, you can actually target an XZ monster on the field, detach a material from it, and if you do, add this card back to your hand, which is such a cool effect. We then play 3 copies of Spriggan's Booty. Spriggan's Booty is definitely a 3-of in the build as well, because if a face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, you can actually target an effect monster your opponent controls, and neither player can activate that effect monster's effects on the field this turn. You can also send this face-up card to the graveyard to activate 1 Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda directly from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really cool effect to instantly get to your copy of your Great Sandseed. So, that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Full Armored XZ. This card works extremely well in the deck because you do play the Armored XZ package in the X deck, and this card can help you summon out your copy of Dark Knight Lancer. We then play a single copy of Spriggan's Blast. Spriggan's Blast is really cool as a 1-of in the build because this card has the ability, if you control a Spriggan's monster, you can choose one opponent's main monster zone, and if a monster is face up in that zone, during this turn it cannot attack directly. Also, its effects are negated. And if no monster is in that zone, it cannot be used this turn, and if you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen Volbaz as a material, you can choose 2 zones instead. This card is really good because it negates a monster effect, and it's just a really good 1-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is really good in the deck as a 3-of just to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with Spriggan's Merrymaker. Merrymaker is definitely a 2-of in the build and helps out so much in the deck because you can summon it off your copy of Great Sandseed Gold Golgonda. With this card's ability, if it's special summon from the X deck, you can send a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is such a powerful ability to be able to use this card. Also, during your opponent's main or battle phase quick effect, you can actually banish this card until the end phase of the turn. Then, if you banish this card with 2 or more XZ materials, you can also send a fusion fusion monster from your extract to graveyard that lists Fallen Volbaz as a material, which is a pretty cool ability to help you get your copy of Sprint into the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of Gigantic Champion Sargus. This card is really good as a 2-of in the build because once per turn you can also XZ summon this card by using a Spriggan's XZ monster that you control, and you transfer all its materials to this card. Also, while this card has material, you can add a Spriggan's or a Therion card from your deck to your hand, which is why we actually play our copy of Regulus in the deck, because we can search it off this card's ability. And then if a material is detached from a monster on the field except during the damage step, you can target 1 card on the field and either destroy it or return it back to the hand, which is such a powerful effect to be able to use your copy of Tally Ho combined with this card's effect. We then play a single copy of Exablower. Exablower is really good just as a 1-of in the build because this card does an AoE effect to be able to destroy cards on the field, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Infernal Flame Banshee. This is how we search out our copy of Nemesis Flag, so we can search out our copy of Corridor, so we can summon out Thunder Dragon Colossus. This card is very easy to summon to your side of the field, and it's just a really powerful card in the deck. We then play a single copy of XZ Armor Fortress. It's really easy to detach materials from this card with a bunch of different card effects, and this card just helps out a lot because it searches out our Armored XZ Trap card, so we can summon out our copy of Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer, which is a really powerful boss monster to be able to make in this deck. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is just a really good board wipe to be able to play in this build, and it's very easy to summon this deck, and you can summon a Zeus with a bunch of materials in this deck because our Spriggan's monsters will want to attach themselves to our Spriggan's XZ monsters. Then you just attack and summon out a copy of Zeus. We can play a single copy of Sprint. Sprint is really good to be able to play in the deck because it's a part of a bunch of combos in this build. It just helps out a lot in the deck overall, and it also has the ability during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can also add to your hand or special summon a Spriggan's monster or Fallen Volbaz directly from your deck to your side of the field, which is a great way to help you get your copy of Sargus to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus because it's so easy to summon this build because your copy of Infernal Flame Banshee will search out Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag summons itself, search out Corridor with Nemesis Flag's effect, use your copy of Corridor to put something in Spanish back, and then once you do, you just basically summon out Colossus by trading Corridor, which is super easy to do. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa just gives us multiple monster negates on the field, which is why I play this card as a 1-of. Play a single copy of Swarm Ship. Swarm Ship is really good to be able to make, alongside our copy of Bestower of Flames. Since the deck is primarily fire, it's very easy to make this card in the build, and it's just a really good combo piece, especially since we can summon Swarm Ship to our side of the field. We then finally play a single copy of Cleafort Genius. Cleafort Genius is really good as a 1-of in the build to be able to put on your side of the field and then use Tally Ho Spriggans to be able to use its effect that when 2 or more monsters are special summoned at the same time as the zones this card points to, you can add a level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability because we have some targets in the deck we can actually use with that effect to be able to search, which is absolutely amazing. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Spriggans before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's extremely powerful and really fun to be able to play. It's one of my favorite decks to be able to just turbo out a bunch of XZ monsters to your side of the field, and it's a part of the Albaz lore, so it's really cool. So, that's good over this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.